Come on, Sage. Erica.
Every time.
And what's that? What's she following up the Sage with?
Organic rose water. I done got the petals. I put it in the water, and I got my own rose water. Here we go.
Oh, I do that.
On this episode of Players of New School, I get a chance to sit and chat with my girls' Minny Tribe, a collective of women who I bonded with at the 2018 WNBA All-Star Weekend. These women consist of writers and influencers and producers in the WNBA, and we talk about a multitude of things, and this is one of the more highly requested interviews I've gotten over the past month. So, without further ado,
I'm keeping it 100% on this particular episode of Players in New School. Of course, Auntie blessing us yet again.
Setting off the vibes, setting off the vibrations.
Come on, vibration.
Especially right now. So on this particular episode of Players in New School, I'm with my girls, Minny Tribe. For those of you who don't know, Tribe is we met in September 2018 at the WNBA All-Star Weekend. We stayed at Blake Dudon's house, and he just blessed us to stay there, and we had an amazing time, and it's been a sisterhood ever since. So several of you have reached out and wanted us to either kind of interview them and talk to them. So this is what we're doing. I mean, we all got time nowadays. So ladies, thank you for being here today.
No problem.
We lit. It's a reunion.
I know.
It truly is. The only person missing is Blake. So, I mean, outside of that,
Blake.
You said what?
Shout out Blake.
Right?
Yeah, to this day, we're thankful that we invaded your house and ate your food.
Oh.
And use your hair products, the hair products. Blake has a great hair product.
I'm gonna have to find some of those videos because I still have a few videos from that weekend. So
Didn't he randomly have Cantu in his guest bathroom?
He sure did.
I was like, yes.
He knew what was happening.
First
of all,
you know what his curls need. You know what they need.
No, let's talk about Blake's curl pattern. He knows what's
happening. He already got that in the control.
He already knows.
Exactly.
We're trying to figure it out, but we're convinced.
I miss his Fro Fridays. I'm like, go ahead with that stuff.
By the way, Jasmine, I love your shirts. Just had to say that real quick. Had a quick plug. Love the shirts.
Thank you.
Okay. I had to send. Wait. Let me see the back real quick because I still haven't actually seen these in person.
Jasmine, you show the back because I'm like.
I
I was like, you gotta turn around.
The back's mad cute. Erica got one on too.
Yes.
About to show it off. Yes.
Dang, all right, what we doing? Right. I'm like, what we doing?
I know we were
Flex Force, E, Flex Force.
Yeah.
Gang.
Shout out the great city of Minnesota.
Okay.
Where everything closes at 4 p.m.
Minnesota's different.
Yo.
Different. The weather was beautiful though. I can't front. The weather was nice when we were there, except for that one day it rained, but
being from Texas, I was very content. I was like, I wish.
It was cute.
Yeah. I'm not about to play with you. So here we go. Let's go ahead and hop into this. So, as many of you know, this week was the week that we were supposed to tip off for the 24th season of the WNBA. Unfortunately, Rona decided to show her behind, so we will not be playing this week. We will not be covering anything this week for the most part. Now, I just wanted to kind of get a few of your thoughts on us not tipping off this week and possibly not at all this summer.
I don't think it's going to be a case where they don't tip off at all. Oh, Erica has the calendar. She showed it. Sad.
It's color coded. What does that say?
Green is for Liberty home games.
It's so sad. Oh, she was ready.
I was about to be all up in Barclays
and everything.
And then
for the first time, we didn't have to go all the way out.
It's an away game.
I love me a details queen. Come on,
cute.
details.
That's probably the most disappointing is everybody was anticipating for the Barclays debut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was so much money to be made, so much energy around the league going into this season. It's really sad to see that it kind of has to come to a halt because Corona doesn't get tired. Like, she just don't get tired.
At all.
So
That hoe is crazy.
No break.
it's crazy. But I don't think that it's going to be a case where we don't have a season. I think that it's just going to be a restricted area. It's not going to be open to the public. But you know, me being optimistic, I'm like, will that mean that they get more network deals? Would that mean they have to showcase them more? Instead of just relying on the record being shown? We just don't know. But I see that the NBA is starting out asking the players if they want to play or not, if they feel safe or not. So I think the W is just falling in line with what the NBA is doing, because, you know, you kind of have to, the NBA kind of sets the standard for basketball across the board. So people are just trying to fall in line with that.
I guess I can selfishly say that I'm sad that the Mystics didn't have their parade. I know y'all would have came too, but like, you know,
Definitely would have.
Being a DC resident now, it's like, wow, like that's so exciting for the city to be able to celebrate that. And then of course it being postponed to the spring because, you know, the women had to go overseas and make their point elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, like the actual day when everybody was like, oh, today would have been the Mystics championship parade, like a couple weeks ago, that really tugged on my heartstrings.
Mm-hmm. Same, sis.
I think
My heartstrings. Go ahead, love.
Oh, sorry. I just want to real quick. I think my biggest concern is, even if they were to start later in the season, with the NBA kind of asking its players what they want to do, how will that impact the WNBA season, especially for the teams that share an arena or share a space with an NBA team? I don't know if it's going to be conflict because other things that will go on in arenas are probably not going on, like concerts or different things. So it may work out, but I just want to see how that would play out, because I'm hearing so many different options with the NBA is playing, and it seems like a lot of that is kind of overlapping what the WNBA season would be, or where does the WNBA season fall in line? Like, do they just scrap the whole season to make sure that the NBA is covered? Like, how is that? I saw one thing, like maybe the NBA season will start as late as like the winter time. So would the WNBA season start around then? Would it start before? Would it not start? Like, I don't know.
I mean, honestly, the NBA only had about 15 games left. So.
Yeah, and they only share only 4 teams share the arena with the NBA team. So it's not going to be. Go ahead, Erica.
What you have to remember is it's not just the NBA and WNBA that use those facilities. You also have NHL. So depending on what the NHL does, that will also be something that goes into effect. I think for me, what's most interesting is, you know, I watch A Touch More with Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe, but Rapinoe was on there yesterday, and her league, the NWSL, they've started allowing just this week teams to do individual trainings. A lot of the women, they have housing just like in the WNBA through their team if they don't live in market or choose not to buy in market. And so they can train in cluster groups if their teammate is also their roommate. However, coaches, a lot of things are changing. But what Pino was saying is she felt, and maybe she was a few drinks in at this point, but she needed at least a month from whenever she was expected to start competing. She felt she needed at least a month of training to be prepared. And that's an elite athlete. That's an athlete that going into coronavirus was very likely going to an Olympic summer Olympic Games. So that's another thing that I think I don't hear too much happen. 2 things. One is that there are other leagues that are also going on and could definitely impact a basketball season regardless of if it's NBA or WNBA. But then also, how much leeway are they going to get as far as training for athletes, especially in the WNBA that didn't start their WNBA season before they start?
You're right. There's no way to stay in basketball shape if you're not playing basketball. And another thing with the team chemistry, there's a lot of movement that happened during free agency, and people have to get to know their teams and everything like that. And I just, beyond the NHL, the NBA conflict of arena, we have to think of FIBA schedule too. So there's like a lot that goes into it, but I really strongly feel that the season won't get canceled. We did have to like take into account the Olympic break that would have been here. So that helps. We gain like a month from that. So it's just a matter of scheduling. I don't know how it's going to be with the home court advantage things, because, you know, there won't be any home court advantage. I don't understand how they're going to be motivated to be excellent. You know, some people really thrive under, like with the fandom and and playing in front of live crowds, that's going to be a challenge for people. There's going to be a lot of challenges in the way, but I don't see them foregoing an entire season. I see them figuring out a way to test everybody daily, kind of like how y'all president says, he tests everybody daily. I think there will be like a daily test thing where they can turn it around and make sure everybody's healthy. But they won't do that until everybody has access to tests. So
UFC, I know they're going on and they don't have any crowd attendance, and I know some of the fighters are saying that they actually kind of like it. It's kind of weird. Some of them saying that they like it, but I don't know. Basketball is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, WWE's been going, like, they haven't stopped. WWE's been going the entire time. They just don't have crowds. Or what I saw, there's another wrestling. I can't believe I got into wrestling all over again, first of all. But anyway.
I'm like, love the wrestling expert.
In another wrestling league, they had where, like, some of the crowd members were other wrestlers to kind of, like, at first, like, to kind of keep that excitement and that competition going a little bit. Also, I think what's a big factor, too, is where you're located. Mm-hmm. The team, speaking of that, because that one minor league wrestling, actually, and WWE, they're located in Florida. Mm-hmm. That's where their headquarters are. So that's why with WWE was like that big controversy recently where they were deemed an essential service because of their tie, the big man's ties to Trump and politics or whatever. But I'm just saying, I say all that to say it depends on what team is located and what that state's standards are going forward. Because some states that some teams were in maybe were not hit as hard as like a New York or like a Chicago or or a DC area. What is it going to be like in the future? Are they going to get hit harder as time goes on versus here in New York where it's starting to die down a little bit? You know what I mean? Like, it is so many moving parts. I think what would be in the league's best interest, which I'm sure they're thinking about, is coming up with plans that are very flexible and that you can change like kind of on the fly, because this virus is extremely unpredictable. Mm-hmm. It shows up differently in each person. And there's no real way of knowing you got it. It's not like, you went outside yesterday with no scarf on and that you got a little cough because of that. Like, it's not like that. Like, you could literally go to the store or go to your mom's house or go, like, just walk out your building and touch a doorknob and you contract it and you may not know, or you may be going to the hospital tomorrow. So it's just such an unpredictable situation. So we just got to see how the leagues are able to be flexible with that. And one more thing, what is that going to mean for media?
Oh, we're definitely not going to be able to cover the league. We're definitely not going to have access to that. That's like the last thing that they have. I know they're going to be in direct contact with us, but as far as you're saying, like depending on like different cities, they're going to try to centralize everything. So whether that be like a Vegas or a Mohegan, like it's going to be a place where it can hold all teams. At least that's where they're leaning right now, just because they don't want to risk like the travel and everything and having to like see where this player came from, this player came from this. It's going to be a place where it's going to be easily monitored all in one. At least that's what they're saying now.
Okay, all right, with the insider information.
Girl, you know,
yeah. Thank you, because I've been so out the loop. Like,
the loop, the loop ain't open. The loop ain't even open.
I found out with everybody else. Like, oh, that's what happened. Okay, all right.
So for me, my take is I just think it's a liability all around. I think it's irresponsible.
Oh yeah.
To have a season, but they don't pay me for that. So moving on. So based off of that, let's get into a little predictions, shall we? Now, I'm going to start with Princess, which is, and we're going to go from the order that we're in. And I want to know, who are your final picks? The two teams you had in the finals, and who's the winner, okay? I know. I'm going to give you a minute. Now, somebody else already has the answer. Go ahead.
I definitely think the Mystics have the arsenal to make it back to the finals again, for sure. I think adding Tina Charles, it's crazy to have so much star power on one team. And to be able to make that work, I know will be an exciting challenge for Coach Tebow, if a challenge at all. I'm definitely leaning towards the Mystics. Something is also telling me Phoenix. I know we don't still do like East-West necessarily anymore, but something is really giving me a good feeling about Phoenix, even though they lost DeWanna Bonner, which is also giving me a good feeling about Connecticut. I don't know, I'm all over the place, but it's like, there's so many good teams, like with this free agency, like you were talking about, all right, there's so many, there was so much movement. I think I would have to say, just to stick to something and not keep flip-flopping, I would have to say Washington and Phoenix. Definitely rebuilding, and that would be an interesting matchup in itself, like seeing Leilani Mitchell's old team and then, you know, them facing each other. Like, so much of that would be really interesting to me. I know y'all might differ, but that's what I'm sticking with, putting it on the board.
All right, Jazz.
Also going to say the Mystics. I think that over the years they built their core, and I think that's kind of a bit of an unstoppable core right now. And then adding Tina Charles, it just opens it up in the front court. I think. Let me see. I'm thinking Aces. Aces or the Sparks. That is like two teams that I've kind of been battling with. I'm gonna probably lean towards the Aces. And then even with, you know, everything that happened in the tournament last year with, you know, Tash and Liz and all that stuff, it'd be fun. It was a really fun semifinal. So I think that would be a really fun matchup. I think, but I think the Mystics will probably, I have them winning again.
All right, Love.
Actually, I'm gonna piggyback off of what Princess said. Honestly, I think the Mystics have the arsenal to take it all. I'm a little bit torn between Vegas and Phoenix because I feel like Vegas were this close, and I feel like they're going to come back into this season along with Angel, who has been out and already has that hunger to get back on the court. I think they're going to kind of try to pick up where they left off and take it all the way. But Phoenix, when I just think of Skylar Diggins and Diana Taurasi and how crazy both of them are, like crazy, competitive, gritty, like I think them two are scary so far. We'll see how it pans out. But Erica's already looking at me like,
yeah.
Baker, are you crying? Are you crying at this pick?
No, when I say scary, I'm not talking about, I'm just mean like just like their hunger and their grit and just the way they play. Like Skylar kind of has like a little bit of that Diana as far as that to me.
Yeah, no,
from what I've seen.
She does.
Baker, not you.
But overall I think Washington will take it.
Okay. All right.
Now read me, Erica. Drag me. Come on.
I already told you I ain't got nothing to say about this because I ain't seen none of these people play, and we're gonna have a shortened season. So I'm not taking nobody's bets because I think it's gonna be unpredictable. So, you know, here's the thing: in the WNBA, you always go with the veteran talent. However, when them rickety knees hit the court, you might want a young team in the coronavirus day. I'm just 100%.
Rickety! Wow.
Rickety knees.
Stars coming off a major surgery. What's that gonna look like? Diana Taurasi, she came back, then she went on a bench. Then she came back, then she went on a bench. Then she sidelined herself for USA basketball. So what's she feeling like now? I don't know.
Right.
All them teams that you talked about, the only team that I think maybe kind of sort of maybe could do something is the Aces because they got that youth. That's another reason why I think Chicago should be in the mix. And you've seen Aces and Chicago players flip-flop a little bit, some of that veteran presence that Chicago didn't have. I think that's what they're looking for in Colson. So I don't really know. I think this could be a year where you really do have to look at the youth movement and how well the coaching staff can make those youth, the rookies and other key pieces that maybe didn't get a lot of minutes elsewhere. If ever there was a year that there could be a youth movement in the WNBA, I pick whatever we get in 2020.
That's great.
Adding to Erica and the unpredictability, I think that even beyond the youth movement, it's the team chemistry aspect. There have been so many moving pieces that you never know how they're going to mesh well together. You're right. Like with Phoenix, they've suffered some injuries, coming back off of not playing, and then they added Skylar Diggins-Smith to the mix. Let's see how that pans out. I really have confidence in LA. They almost have the 2016 team back, so that's like really exciting to watch. I want to see how Angel blends in with Vegas. Vegas got a lot of personalities, and Angel's coming back from playing after not playing for a while. But it should be fun to see her in a new setting where she is happy and can thrive. I think Chicago has a chip on their shoulder, so they'll be playing with that. I think they have really great balance between veteran and rookie play, and they have dogs. Like everybody talks about Atlanta have a dog mentality. I think Chicago has it too, and they're very slept on with that. The Mystics, it's going to be interesting. They have everything on paper to go the whole way, but just to add Tina, and Tina is so used to having that responsibility of carrying a team. Let's see how it will mesh with like EDD and Emma. Like you never know, but I know they're excited, so there's an excitement factor of them. And then Connecticut, we can't forget about their big three too. It's just a matter of it's a toss in the air. But if I had to put money on it, I would probably say Mystics, LA, Chicago, and Connecticut for the last four standing. For some reason, I don't know if Phoenix is, because outside of the Phoenix's big three, I'm not sure if they have a strong enough bench. Like I'm not sure if the rest of them are strong enough to carry it. So we're focusing on the fact that they have these three greats. And that's no knock to the rest of Phoenix, but I'm just like, okay, so you have the newer players that still have to learn from their veterans. But I think that like well-roundedness, Chicago's really underestimated. I think Connecticut we keep sleeping on because we're focused on other people's big threes, and then the effect of Tina Charles, whether that would be positive or negative.
Can I pose a question? What do we think about, that team down in Texas? Because I feel like we have so much to say about the way that they kind of have been wheeling and dealing in the draft and making moves and making trades. And it's like, we see it come together, but what do we think the product is going to be on the court? I've just wanted to hear from y'all what y'all think about Dallas.
That's a Jasmine Baker question.
That's a Baker question. Tell the people how you refer to the Wings. What do you call them in relation to the rest of the WNBA?
Put you on the spot.
You made it your Twitter name, so you can't hide it now anyway.
Right.
The daycare of the W. People have called it the training camp now, and I agree. I like there's so many things you can call it. A mystery is really what it is. I consistently have questions about that. If I could answer that question, shoot, I'd be the one, right? But I don't know. I think there are more questions than answers when it comes to, like, I feel like at the end of the day, ideally, right? Ideally, they have the coach that can do it. They have a new era to me. They have youth. Obviously, it's going to take them a few years, possibly a couple seasons to get where they kind of get it. But, I mean, we saw Chicago go through it, and, they came out all right. So, for me, I'm just kind of like, not all is lost. But, with Satu, you can't go wrong with that. I just feel like she's going to bring in such when you lose a player like Skylar, you're like, whoa, what can you replace that with? And obviously she doesn't come in as a veteran, but I feel like she does give us that needed Enrique. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm just kind of like, I look forward to seeing what they're doing. The thing about it is I've always been impressed with how they've drafted players, but it's one of those things, if you can't keep players here, quality players here, and if the team is constantly frustrated, because I've heard since they've been here, I've consistently heard, and not just from team, actual players, I'm hearing from people who work for the team. So it's constantly some mess. And I'm just kind of like, okay, at what point are we going to, or are y'all going to figure it out? That's really what it comes down to. So I don't know. I think it's a great I think it's going to be a great product once they can figure it out. I saw where they were starting to really build something when they had Liz and Skylar on the floor, but it just, when people don't want to be here, chemistry's always going to be off. There's always going to be a problem. So.
What do you think is, from what you've heard, without saying too much or dropping names, what do you think are some of the reasons that people don't want to be in the Wings?
front office. I mean, you know, the name that consistently comes up that players are actually saying is Greg. As GM. I mean, I don't mind dropping the name because they've already said it themselves. So for me, it's one of those things where at one point, yeah, it was coaching, and then Fred left, and then it was kind of like after that, we're still having these issues. So, you know, at a certain point, you're kind of like, okay, so what are y'all going to do about this? Because it's not, again, like I said, it's not just players bringing his name up. So for me, I'm just kind of like, I know that a lot of people don't want to say his name. I'm just like, why is this, like, why is there such a stigma around saying this man's name and calling him out if that's what the players are saying? I think it's despicable that players are consistently in a hostile work environment and, you know, nobody's addressing the actual person that they're calling out. I think that's just disrespectful to the players, but you know, I mean, we deal with this every day at work anyway. So, I mean, it's nothing new. Just
is this the same GM from Tulsa or is somebody new?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. It's real quick. Out of all the teams that are, I guess, younger or that have drafted younger over the last couple of years that haven't made like a really, really far playoff stretch. So I guess like the Dream, Chicago, which one of the, in New York, since how they drafted this particular season, which team do you see being the most dominant or like extremely dominant in like the next 3 to 5 seasons?
I think Atlanta is going to have a good resurgence. I think that once Nikki figures out how to get a handle on things with the cultural aspect, then they'll be fine. Trading away, you know, certain pieces to mesh well with other pieces. She's really excited about the Kennedy Carter addition, just filling in what she needs. I think that they have a more well-rounded team, both in the front and backcourt. So I think that there's going to be a resurgence of that. They have hope, unlike, you know, other teams. Like New York doesn't really have, they haven't had a good season in a while, right? You have Atlanta, who just last year, not this past year, but the year before that, they made a pretty far run. So they have that hope. They still know what it's like to win. So I think that they're going to be able to turn around that record. And that's why I think Kennedy Carter is going to be the Rookie of the Year, because she's going to be the piece that they've been wanting for this while and be able to mesh well with her team and get them farther than they were the year before.